In the small village of Nosoroma, where ancient trees whispered secrets of old and the air was thick with the scent of wildflowers, the day began with the promise of an adventure. The sun rose slowly, casting long shadows over thatched roof huts and illuminating the faces of children eager to explore. Among them were Kofi and Amma, whose youthful energy and curiosity were as bright as the morning light. In the center of the village, beneath the old baobab tree, sat Nana Ajoa, the children's grandmother and the village storyteller. She gathered the children around her, her voice deep and soothing, weaving stories of the spirits that guarded their land and the sacred forest that lay beyond the eastern ridge. "Remember, my children," Nana Ajoa cautioned, her eyes scanning the eager faces, "the forest is alive. It holds memories and secrets not meant for the hearts of the reckless." Kofi, a bold and spirited boy, leaned closer, his eyes alight with fascination. Beside him, Amma, thoughtful and daring in her own right, hung on every word. The tales of hidden treasures and ancient spirits stirred a restless longing in their hearts. The forest, with all its mysteries, called to them, a whisper almost impossible to ignore. As the sun climbed higher, the stories gave way to daily chores, but the seed of adventure had already taken root in Kofi and Amma's hearts. They spoke in hushed tones, their imaginations fueled by the legends of the forest. "Think of what lies out there, Amma," Kofi whispered, his voice trembling with excitement. "Treasures waiting under canopies of green, guarded by spirits of old." Amma nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. "But Nana Ajo warned us, Kofi. She said those who enter the forest with greed in their hearts never return the same." As twilight approached, the children's resolve grew. They plotted under the cover of falling darkness, the sky painted with strokes of orange and purple. The village slowly settled into a peaceful slumber, unaware of the quiet rebellion brewing in the hearts of two daring souls. "We must see for ourselves," Kofi insisted, his eyes reflecting the flicker of torches. "We'll be careful, and we'll return before anyone knows we're gone." With cautious steps they approached the boundary of the village, each movement deliberate and silent. The forest loomed ahead, an imposing figure shrouded in mystery and twilight shadows. As they crossed the threshold, the air shifted, cooler and somehow thicker. They paused, their hearts racing not just with excitement, but with a dawning sense of the reality they had stepped into. The forest was indeed alive, its presence felt in the rustling leaves and the eerie quiet that settled around them like a cloak. The adventure had truly begun, but so too had the trial of their courage and respect for the ancient laws that governed the natural world. Little did they know, the forest had begun to watch them, its guardians whispering in the wind, ready to test the spirits of those who dared to uncover its secrets. The first rays of sunlight crept over the horizon, casting long, golden beams through the thatched roofs of the sleeping village. The air was cool and crisp, carrying with it the faint scent of dew-drenched earth. Kofi and Amma moved quietly, their steps muffled by the soft dirt path. A rooster crowed in the distance, signaling the start of a new day, but the siblings had already begun their journey. Kofi glanced at Amma, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of excitement and mischief. "We'll be back before anyone notices," he whispered, gripping the strap of the small satchel slung over his shoulder. Amma hesitated for a moment, her hand brushing against the smooth bark of a nearby tree. "It feels different," she said softly, her voice tinged with unease. "The air, it's heavy, as if the forest knows we are coming." Kofi chuckled, a nervous edge to his laughter. "It's just your imagination, Amma. Let's keep moving." The edge of the forest loomed ahead, its towering trees shrouded in an eerie mist. As they crossed the boundary, a gust of wind rustled the leaves, carrying a faint, almost imperceptible whisper. Amma paused, her hand tightening on Kofi's arm. "Did you hear that?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Kofi shrugged, trying to mask his unease. "It's just the wind, come on." The forest welcomed them with an enchanting beauty that felt almost otherworldly. Shafts of sunlight filtered through the dense canopy, painting the ground with dappled patches of light. Vibrant flowers bloomed in unexpected places, their petals shimmering with dew. Birds with iridescent feathers darted between branches, their songs filling the air. "It's beautiful," Amma murmured, her earlier fear momentarily forgotten. But as they ventured deeper, the forest began to change. The air grew colder and the vibrant colors seemed dull. The cheerful birdsong was replaced by an eerie silence, broken only by the occasional creak of branches swaying in a wind they could not feel. Kofi frowned, glancing around. It's quiet, too quiet. Amma nodded, her eyes scanning the shadows that seemed to stretch and shift. Maybe we should go back. Before Kofi could respond, a low growl rumbled through the trees. They froze, their breaths caught in their throats. Slowly they turned toward the sound, their eyes widening as a pair of glowing eyes emerged from the shadows. The creature that stepped into the light was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was a massive, lion-like being with shimmering, silver fur and horns that curved back like those of a ram. Despite its fearsome appearance, its eyes held a calm, almost knowing expression. Amma clutched Kofi's arm, her voice trembling. "What is that?" The creature regarded them for a moment before lowering its head. Its voice, deep and resonant, seemed to echo in their minds rather than their ears. "You do not belong here," it said. "Turn back now, or the forest will decide your fate." Kofi stepped forward, his heart pounding. "We mean no harm. We wanted to see what's out here." The creature's eyes narrowed. "Curiosity has led many down paths they should not tread. Leave now, while you still can." The siblings nodded, taking a step back, but before they could retreat, a faint glow in the distance caught Kofi's eye. He squinted, trying to make out the source of the light. "Do you see that?" he whispered to Amma. She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, but maybe we shouldn't. It could be the treasure," Kofi said, his excitement rekindled. "We have to see." Ignoring the creature's warning, the siblings pressed on. The glowing light led them to a clearing unlike anything they had imagined. At its center stood an enormous tree, its trunk twisted and gnarled, its branches reaching high into the sky. Strange, glowing symbols were etched into its bark, pulsing faintly with light. Amma's breath caught in her throat. "This must be it," she said. The stories, they were true. But the air around them grew heavy, and a deep hum resonated from the tree. The ground beneath their feet trembled, and the symbols on the tree began to glow brighter. Kofi reached out toward the tree, his fingers just inches from its bark. "What do you think it means?" he asked, his voice filled with wonder. Amma grabbed his arm, pulling him back. "Don't touch it. This isn't right." The tree let out a groaning sound, as if waking from a long slumber. The glowing symbols shifted, forming words in a language neither of them could understand. Suddenly the wind picked up, swirling around them with a force that made them stagger. The forest seemed to come alive, the trees creaking and groaning as their branches moved as if of their own accord. Amma shouted over the roar of the wind, "Kofi, we have to go. Now." But before they could move, roots erupted from the ground, twisting and writhing like serpents. The siblings were thrown apart, each landing hard on the forest floor. As the forest closed in around them, a voice echoed through the clearing, deep and resonant. "You were warned. Now you will face the trials of the forest." The adventure they had sought had become a nightmare, and their courage would soon be tested in ways they could never have imagined. The forest, which had been an eerie observer until now, began to awaken. The ground trembled as if disturbed by an ancient power, and the once tranquil air filled with the rustling of leaves that whispered warnings in a language too old to be understood. The towering trees creaked, bending unnaturally, their twisted branches reaching toward the sky like beseeching arms. A cold wind swept through the clearing, swirling around Kofi and Amma, carrying with it a haunting chorus of voices that seemed to rise from the very soil beneath their feet. The light that had once guided them now flickered erratically, casting long, shifting shadows that danced like spirits in the gloom. Amma clutched Kofi's arm. "Kofi, we've gone too far. We need to leave now." Kofi's voice trembled, though he tried to appear brave. It's just the wind. We'll be fine if we keep moving." Before he could take another step, the wind howled fiercely, and a piercing cry echoed through the forest, making the ground beneath them quake. The forest seemed alive, furious, and ready to defend itself. Suddenly the earth cracked open between them, creating a chasm that split the clearing in two. Kofi and Amma stumbled backward, their hands slipping apart as the ground shifted violently. "Kofi!" Amma screamed, her voice swallowed by the roaring wind as the gap between them widened. "Amma, hold on!" Kofi yelled back, but his words were drowned out by the cacophony of the forest's fury. The chasm grew larger, and with one final, deafening groan, the earth heaved and a thick wall of roots erupted between them. Amma was lost from Kofi's sight, her figure obscured by the writhing mass of roots and branches. Kofi stumbled to his knees, his breath ragged and his heart pounding in his chest. The once vibrant clearing now felt like a nightmare, and the oppressive silence that followed the chaos was deafening. Kofi found himself in a darkened labyrinth, the trees around him forming a maze that seemed to twist and shift with each step he took. Shadows flickered at the edges of his vision, and faint whispers echoed, their words just out of reach. "Who's there?" he called out, his voice shaky. The shadows coalesced into figures he recognized but wished he could forget. His father, stern and disapproving, loomed before him. "Kofi, you're reckless. Always chasing trouble," the figure said, its voice heavy with disappointment. "No, I'm not," Kofi protested, stepping back. "I just wanted to prove I'm brave." Another figure appeared, this time his younger self, small and vulnerable. "You were always afraid of the dark, Kofi," it said, its voice mocking. "Even now you're scared." Kofi clenched his fists, his frustration boiling over. "I'm not afraid," he yelled, but the forest seemed to laugh, the shadows twisting into mocking shapes. The maze closed in around him, and Kofi dropped to his knees, his head in his hands. "I just wanted to find something that would make everyone proud." The shadows stilled, and a soft, warm light appeared, illuminating the path ahead. A voice, gentle and wise, spoke from the light. "True bravery is not in seeking danger, but in admitting your fears and choosing to face them with humility." Kofi wiped his eyes and stood, his steps more measured now as he followed the light out of the maze. Amma, meanwhile, was trapped in a circle of glowing symbols etched into the forest floor. She felt a presence behind her, and turned to see a spectral figure cloaked in shimmering light. Its form was neither fully human nor entirely spirit, and its eyes held the weight of countless ages. "Why have you come here, child?" the figure asked, its voice resonating like a deep drumbeat. Amma swallowed hard, her throat dry. We didn't mean to disturb anything. We were curious about the forest's secrets." "Curiosity without respect leads to destruction," the figure said, stepping closer. "Do you not understand the sacredness of this place? Your ancestors fought to protect it, yet you walk here as if it is yours to take." Tears welled in Amma's eyes. "I'm sorry, I didn't think, I just wanted to see for myself." The figure's gaze softened. "Seeing is not enough, you must listen, learn and protect what is sacred. Will you promise to carry this wisdom forward?" Amma nodded, her voice trembling. "I promise. I'll honor the forest and our traditions." The spectral figure extended a hand, and as Amma reached out, the glowing symbols around her faded, and the figure disappeared. She felt the weight of her promise settle on her heart. Both Kofi and Amma emerged from their trials, the forest now eerily still. They found each other in the clearing, their faces streaked with tears, but their expressions resolute. "I saw things, Amma," Kofi said, his voice quiet. "Things I needed to understand about myself." Amma nodded. "Me too. I think the forest wanted us to learn, not just about it, but about ourselves." They turned toward the ancient tree, its glow now soft and welcoming. Together they knelt before it, their voices steady as they spoke. "We're sorry for our disrespect. We promise to honor and protect this forest and the wisdom it holds." The wind returned, but this time it was gentle, carrying the scent of blooming flowers and fresh earth. The forest seemed to sigh, as if satisfied with their sincerity. The roots that had separated them receded, and the chasm closed, leaving the clearing whole once more. Hand in hand, Kofi and Amma began their journey back home, their hearts heavier with responsibility, but lighter with the knowledge that they had been given a second chance. They would carry the forest's lessons with them, sharing its wisdom with their village, and honoring the balance between curiosity and respect. The forest had quieted, but the air remained heavy with an unspoken demand. Kofi and Amma stood side by side beneath the ancient tree, its glowing symbols now dim to a faint pulse, as if waiting. The siblings exchanged a glance, their faces streaked with dirt and tears, their breaths steadying after the trials they had endured. Kofi stepped forward first, his voice trembling. "Great forest, we were wrong. We entered without respect, blinded by our own desires. We didn't understand the sacredness of this place." Amma joined him, her tone soft but firm. "We see now that this forest isn't just a place of stories, it's alive, filled with wisdom and power that our ancestors sought to protect. We are sorry for our disrespect." The wind stirred gently, carrying their words into the trees. As if in response, the forest seemed to exhale, the glow of the symbols growing slightly brighter. Kofi knelt, placing his hand on the earth. We promise to honor the forest's secrets and protect its wisdom. We will carry this lesson back to our village. Amma knelt beside him, her fingers brushing the roots of the ancient tree. We vow to teach others to respect what our ancestors left for us and to live in harmony with the world they cherished. The tree groaned softly, its branches swaying without wind. The siblings felt a warmth rising from the ground, a sign that their apology had been accepted. The oppressive weight in the air lifted, replaced by a sense of calm and understanding. The forest began to guide them. A faint golden path appeared, marked by the soft glow of flowers that seemed to bloom as they walked. The setting sun painted the world in hues of orange and pink, casting long shadows that danced in the trees. As they walked, Amma spoke, her voice thoughtful. It's strange, Kofi. The forest feels different now. Like it's helping us. Kofi nodded, his gaze fixed on the path ahead. I think it's because we've changed too. It's like Nana Ajo always said, when you show respect, the world opens its heart to you. The golden light led them back to the village's edge, where the familiar sight of their home filled them with relief. The forest behind them stood tall and silent, its mysteries now a part of them. As they entered the village, the first to spot them was their neighbor, old Mama Ifua, who let out a cry of surprise. Kofi, Ama, you're back. Her voice drew others, and soon a small crowd had gathered, their expressions a mix of relief and reprimand. What were you thinking? One villager scolded. Do you know how worried we've been? You should have listened to Nana Ajoa, another added. The forest is not a place for children to play. Kofi and Amma bowed their heads, their shame evident. Kofi raised his hands to quiet the crowd. We were wrong, he began. But we've returned to share what we've learned. The forest isn't just dangerous, it's alive, and it holds the wisdom of our ancestors. We disrespected it, and it made us face our fears, but it also taught us how to listen. Amma stepped forward, her voice steady despite the emotions swelling within her. We saw its power, but also its kindness. The forest protected us once we understood. We promised to honor its secrets and ensure that no one forgets its importance. The villagers murmured among themselves, some nodding in understanding, others still skeptical. From the back of the crowd came a familiar voice, strong and steady. Let them speak. The crowd parted to reveal Nana Ajoa, her walking stick tapping rhythmically against the ground. Her eyes were sharp, but there was a glint of relief in their depths. Come here, my children, she said, beckoning them with her hand. Kofi and Amma approached her, their heads bowed. Nana, we're sorry, Amma said, her voice breaking. We should have listened to you. Nana Ajoa placed a hand on each of their shoulders, her gaze piercing yet kind. The forest has always been a teacher, but its lessons are not easy. It tested you, and you returned with wisdom. That is how one grows. But know this, curiosity without respect can lead to ruin. Balance your wonder with humility. Yes, Nana, they replied in unison, their voices filled with sincerity. Nana Ajoa turned to the gathered villagers. Let this be a lesson for us all. The forest is not just a place, it is a reflection of who we are and how we treat the world around us. If we honor it, it will honor us. That evening, the elders gathered beneath the great baobab tree, as was tradition when wisdom needed to be shared. Kofi and Amma recounted their journey, speaking of the trials, the guardian, and the vows they had made. As the fire crackled and the stars shone brightly overhead, one of the elders spoke. This story will be told for generations. It will remind our children that the forest is not to be feared, but to be respected. Another elder nodded. And it will teach them that mistakes can lead to growth, but only if we have the courage to admit them and make amends. The village settled into a calm stillness, the lesson of the day woven into its collective memory. Kofi and Amma sat beside Nana Ajoa, their hearts lightened by her forgiveness and the promise of a new beginning. The forest, now silent and watchful, stood as a sentinel on the edge of the village, a reminder of the delicate balance between humanity and nature, a balance that, for now, was restored.